But when you guys are talking about like the sibling roles and all that, I'm a middle child, but I always felt like the older sibling, mainly because my older brother, he's my half brother, but I never felt like he was fully there for me the way that I felt an older sibling should be there. So I have a younger brother, and I wanted to move out at 18, but the reason I didn't is because I didn't want my little brother to feel the way I felt, not having an older sibling, although you do have one. And I feel like a lot of people don't really like have the privilege of saying, yeah, I have an older brother to look out for me, or an older sister to look out for me. So I wanted my little brother to grow up with the privileges that I didn't have, which is why I'm still like home and taking care of, like, just making sure everything is good, making sure he's okay, to make sure that he doesn't go through the things that I went through when I was his age, especially being in my household. Yeah. So like my parents, like every parent is different, and no parent is perfect. My parents, they had their ups and downs. I had my ups and downs. I love them with all my heart, although I don't agree with a lot of the things that happened when I was like younger and everything. I still love them, and I found forgiveness, because at the end of the day, like people like myself who are first generation in the United States with immigrant parents, we need to learn to forgive our parents because they were raised a certain way. They don't know any other way to live. So obviously they're going to project that onto us, and it's hard for change. It's really hard. And you start to learn that as a young adult, that the person that you become, it's hard to kind of like alter that, because the way you're raised matters so much. Yeah. So like I learned to find forgiveness in that, and I learned to be a good middle sister, like although I'm like the middle / older sister to my little brother and everything. And I also grew up being the only girl in my family. All of my cousins are boys. So wow. I grew up like having to constantly learn how to just stand up for myself, and you know what I mean? But
I definitely know what you mean. Yeah. And honestly, like it's kind of hard because I feel like I am the oldest, and I feel like ever since I was, existing, I always felt that pressure. But it's kind of like, and I still feel that now, because I feel like I'm never home. I'm always outside, like all the time. And then I'm never like home for my brothers who are, much younger and middle school. One's just started college, and they're always looking for someone to look up to. But then like it's hard. In a way, it's like I need to still live my life in order to set that example and to provide for whatever, in the future, hopefully.
And people don't realize that growing up, like, people don't realize that adulting comes with so much responsibility, more than a lot of people realize. People don't realize that adulting means having to spend time away from your family, making your own experiences, and having to choose between making your own experiences and leaving your family behind and missing out on experiences with them. It's a lot of sacrifice, whether people realize it or not. Just adulting in general, the minute you move out of your house, you're losing time with your parents and making time for yourself. But to what extent? To what cost? And like, as I'm pursuing like this career path, there's times when I travel to LA for a month at a time, or I travel to other states, or I'm constantly not home. And I'm getting all these memories, these fond memories with other people, but we only have our parents around and our siblings around like for so long. You never know what may happen.
Yeah, exactly.
So like every time we step out of our house, it's a sacrifice.
Y'all making me emotional, man.
Nah, it's true.
Nah, because I had a meeting 2 days ago. And when I met with the therapist, people was helping me with my book, we had a whole conversation about like how I started to resent my brothers. My brothers was grown, they went to college. And when I moved to New York, like a lot of people, so I was born in Virginia, right? I came back when I was 4 months. Then I came back to the Bronx when I was 4 months, and I went back to Virginia when I was 5. And I grew up, I did all my elementary in Virginia, then I came here at middle school. And it's so weird because I grew up in one of the poorest, worst areas in the state of Virginia. Holly Cove, 757, Chesapeake, Virginia. Google the statistics. But to me, it never felt that bad, right? And then when I moved to New York, I'm in the projects. I'm in Bloods, YGs, 169th Webster Avenue, South Bronx. And my brothers are not there. They're not calling in. They're not checking in. You've been through this. You know what it's like dealing with parents who is on drugs. You know what it's like not feeling protected. I went from dude say the wrong thing. Oh, you bugging. Let me go get my bike. Josh, Jay, Nucky, he yelled at me. Word, hold on. Come outside, pound him out. Don't talk to my little brother like that. Don't talk to my little sister like that. Then when it comes from people getting $150s on Halloween, going through a metal detector at 6th grade. And I'm like, yo, my brothers are not around. I don't got no choice to become an animal. I don't got no choice but to act tough. I don't got no choice but to be mad. Like, yo, why y'all not calling? Like, how y'all gonna leave me? And then as a grown man, I feel like, dang, all their sacrifices and them creating their own life and going to college and making something is what got me here. But as a kid, you don't understand that. So you feel a lot of resentment to you who's going through that situation. So it's crazy to hear y'all perspective, because for a while I hated my older siblings because I feel like they abandoned me. I feel like you know what it was like to deal with this. You've seen this. How could you be selfish enough to go live your life and not protect me? But what do you do? Because sometimes you're better off becoming the best man you could be to help him later on. You're best off becoming that big actor, that star, that role model, because I guarantee you, if you get there, you're going to remember who he is, and you're going to put him in positions that he never thought of. When you get there, you're going to put all 4 of your siblings in positions they never thought of. But you got to understand how we think too as the younger ones. A phone call. You don't got to be there every day, but a phone call matters.
Yeah, I do that.
A check-in matters. A random date to the movies matters. And, you know, it's a slippery slope, you know, and you don't want them to, until they 27, 28, my age, to have to understand that. Talk to them early. Your brother's 12. Take him to a movie. Once a month. I don't give a fuck how busy you are. Once a month. Call him. Say, bro, let's go out. Bring him to the studio. Let him sit in the back. Just let him feel your presence. Let him see how a man's supposed to walk. How a man's supposed to talk. Because he may not have the daddy role model he deserves. You know what it's like to feel that. Don't ever let him feel that. It don't need to be every day. It ain't your responsibility. But when we have nobody else to look up to, we look up to y'all. You know, so, you know, it's crazy because I just literally went through a whole therapy session about this 2 days ago. About like, yo, we didn't know that. My therapist said, I didn't know that you resented your siblings like this much. And I'm like, it's not that I resentment. I was just hurt. But I was hurt for the wrong reasons. And it shouldn't have took 14 years for me to understand that.
Yeah.
So
I always put myself in like my little brother's shoes and his positioning. Like,
yeah.
Growing up being like an athlete in high school and everything, I would always bring him to my basketball games all the time. I would pick him up right after school, bring him back to my practice, to my game. He would meet all my teammates and all that stuff. And it was always just like a group of us girls and my little brother just there. Because I know it was important for him to not be alone in the house.
Yeah.
And to this very day, like, he asks me for movie dates and all this stuff, and I try my best to make it happen. And then I realized, like, it's a lot having to be there for your family, for your friends, for your relationship, and then that little bit of energy that you have to be there for yourself. It takes a lot.
And it's not fair.
No. And then, like, a month into, let's say you go a whole month with working a job, making plans with your friends to be there for them, making plans with your family to be there for them. That month passes by and it's just everyone else except for yourself. And then you have that 1 week where you feel drained and you don't know why. And it's because you didn't find any room for your mental health. And then this is something I always tell my little brother, because my dad, he's very hardworking. He works around the clock. He's a superintendent, so he has to be on the clock. And he's a great, great dad. He's an amazing dad. But to raise someone, my little brother, he's 16 now, to raise a 16-year-old boy, you have to be present, you know? And it's difficult because a lot of the times I go into my little brother's room and I make sure to ask the question, how are you feeling today? Not how are your grades, not how is school, not how this and this and that. How are you feeling mentally is what I ask him. Because what I notice is that my parents would often ask, like, what are your grades looking like? I had to grow up with that all the time. I never got asked what my mental health was like. Yeah. And it was deteriorating. And this is something, it's another reason why I'm so fond in content creation and just building a good audience, because at one point in my life, in my career, I want to make a change to like the school system. Why is it that we have these mental health classes in elementary school and it's not carried out in middle school and in high school when it's most needed? And things like that, like, it really bothers me, because knowing that I have a younger sibling going through all of these like emotional things, like, no one could be there for these kids. And all these schools, all they care about is you getting above 90s, getting good grades, or else you're gonna get expelled or gonna have to do extra work. You know what I mean? Yeah. The most important thing, the most important class that I feel schools need to have right now is mental health classes. Teaching children what it is to be sad, happy, angry, and how to cope with it in a healthy way. And that's what we're missing in these school systems. And like, even aside from that, it's like people don't realize when you become a parent, like to make sure that you have someone there for your child in a moment like that, therapy is so needed. Mm-hmm. And like, no matter what age you are, it's so important to just have some sort of therapy in your life. Definitely. Because no matter if you're 10, 20, 40, 80, having therapy is so important, because people tend to like hold things in all the time. And that's what builds resentment. That's what builds not having the motivation to get up in the morning and do things. So just constantly just making sure you have that outlet is really important, no matter what age you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, it's tough. And, you know, like, there's nobody to blame, right? Like, you don't deserve that responsibility. Gabe don't deserve that responsibility. But I just met you today, but just feeling your energy, feeling your vibe, I understand is important to you. I know him like the back of my hand. That's important to him. That's 100% true, right? So it's like, you know, just, even though it's not your responsibility, it matters to you, and it's gonna affect your mental health. So like, you don't have to go above and beyond. You guys are not parents, not your responsibility, but it's the little things that matters, you know. And we just got to bring it all in, and just like you would take care of your neighbor, just like you would take care of your stranger, take care of your family, you know.